Hey, I'm Jamey with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm excited to talk about my favorite mechanism in the game, Hidden Leaders. This is, at its heart, a hidden role game with a shared multiplayer tug-of-war mechanism to it. And I love tug-of-war mechanisms in games. I think it's fairly difficult to pull them off in a multiplayer game, and so that's why I was super impressed that Hidden Leaders pulled it off. So in Hidden Leaders, you have a hidden role. Here's my hidden role in the first game that I played. We played a full 6-player game. And on your hidden leader, you are shown two different icons. Every hidden leader has two different icons here. And so what those icons are telling you is that at the end of the game, if the tug of war tokens, which are shared by all players, if they meet the condition that your faction, that either of your factions wants, you are eligible to win the game. And if more than one player has that faction, then there's a tiebreaker that I'll talk about in a second. So for example, the green faction, they want the green token to be further along on the tug-of-war track. Here's the tug-of-war track here. So they want this green token to be farther to the right than the blue faction. So you can kind of see it down here on this reference card that tells you the different win conditions. So there's the undead. They just want both of these tokens on the tug-of-war track to be in this dark area. The blue faction wants these tokens to be on the same space. The red faction and the green faction are kind of inverses of each other. So the red faction wants the red token to be farther to the right of the green token by at least 2 steps. And the green faction wants the green token to be to the left of the red token by at least 2 steps. I didn't mention this, but for the blue faction, it either wants the tokens on the same space or exactly 1 space away. So you can see there's a lot of dynamics happening here in terms of where these tokens might end up and the fact that you have 2 different goals that you're going after. On my leader here, these are different goals. This one is saying that I want the tokens to be very close together. This one is saying I just want the green token as far away from the red player, far to the right of the red token as possible. So different goals here. You have to balance those 2 different goals. And the way you do that is with these cards. So you have a hand of cards. You can evolve this hand of cards over the course of the game. And you're playing these cards to gain a little ability. So all the cards have a faction associated with it, and they also have ability that I've covered up with my finger here. But it says things like the red token loses value or advances on the track, goes back or forth on the track. So you're basically manipulating the tokens throughout the game. But some of the cards, and this is a clever little hook here with the tug-of-war track, some of the cards are placed face down, and this is the tiebreaker I was talking about earlier. So I mentioned that because you have 2 factions, it's possible at the end of the game that multiple players might have the same faction. So if the game ended and say the blue faction wins, but there are multiple blue players, that's when you go to the tiebreaker, which is related to face down cards. At the beginning of the game, you get to place some cards face down in front of you. And during the game, there are other cards that let you place cards face down. And what that does, those face down cards, they serve as the tiebreaker. So if the blue faction wins, you look at the player who has the most face down blue cards, and that player is the winner. And correct me if I'm wrong as I'm talking about this. If I don't think any face up cards count towards that. I think it's just the face down cards. So you're placing these cards, some cards face down, and they will potentially be the tiebreaker if multiple factions are in play in the game. I think all these elements come together really, really well in this game. This whole tug-of-war mechanism where you're using the same 2 tokens for all players, but each faction has they want different things, and the fact that players share those factions. So you are deciphering as you go which players that you're working with without even realizing that you're working with them. Unless they are playing cards face up and you're realizing, okay, that this player is clearly working towards this or as part of this certain faction, and I want the same thing that they want. And if you figure that out, then you know that you need to place as many cards face down as possible of that faction. But yeah, it's just a really simple, streamlined game with this tug-of-war mechanism that can involve multiple players, not just 2 players. I think it's a really clever, really, really clever tug-of-war mechanism that engages the multiple players in this way, using only 2 tokens for all players to want to manipulate in different ways. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Hidden Leaders, my favorite elements of the game. I'd love to hear your thoughts if you play the game, or if you can think of other multiplayer games that have a tug-of-war track. I think there's really only, I'm sure there's more than one, but the one that comes to mind is Dogs of War. That's one that uses a bunch of different tug-of-war tracks. But yeah, the idea of a multiplayer game involving just a single tug-of-war track that all players engage with in different ways is just fascinating to me. Really impressive design. That's Hidden Leaders. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks.